Deep beneath the Egyptian desert lie 25 massive granite vaults, each scaling a staggering 100 tons, leaving global engineering experts completely baffled. Meanwhile, India features a 16th-century-old iron column immune to rust, and Iraq yielded an ancient battery predating Alessandro Volta's invention by 2 millennia. These baffling artifacts defy conventional textbooks simply because the historians who authored them never actually witnessed such impossible craftsmanship. Today, we will examine 7 authentic ancient relics that seem as though they were left behind by chrononauts from the distant future. Let us begin with the most physically demanding enigma, a series of tangible museum pieces that completely shatter our established understanding of history. The year is 1850 in Saqqara, Egypt, where French archaeologist Auguste Mariette spots a stone sphinx emerging from the desert sands northwest of Djoser's pyramid. Unearthing an entire avenue of these statues, he quickly realizes they mark the path leading directly to a subterranean complex. To breach the tightly sealed entrances of this underground structure, his excavation team is ultimately forced to employ explosives. Once inside, they discover a complex web of elongated corridors carved directly out of the natural limestone bedrock. Within the grandest gallery, 25 colossal chests sculpted from black and pink granite stand positioned along both sides of the main hallway. Each vault measures 4 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, and over 3 meters high, boasting an incredibly massive frame. With lids weighing 30 tons alone, these 100-ton containers equal the mass of a fully loaded railway car, crammed into tight underground recesses. When Mariette uses dynamite to blast open one of these stone vaults, he encounters absolute emptiness within the perfectly smooth interior walls. Mainstream academia designates this site as the Serapeum, claiming it housed sacred Apis bulls, yet no actual mummified remains or bones were ever located inside. Instead, engineer Christopher Dunn discovered a mind-boggling, machine-like accuracy, finding perfectly flat surfaces and flawless 90-degree angles using high-precision industrial gauges. Seeking answers, Dunn approached a prominent American manufacturing firm to see if they could replicate just one of these seamless granite boxes. The specialist delivered a blunt reality check, stating that even with an unlimited budget, modern industry would have to assemble it from 6 separate slabs. Yet the ancient builders somehow carved every single massive container out of a single, solid monolith. Procuring this material required transporting the heavy stone from Aswan, a staggering 800 kilometers away from the Saqqara site. To make matters more baffling, many containers consist of diorite, an incredibly hard mineral that defies basic hand tools. Down in the subterranean complex, the passageways are so tight that 2 grown men can barely squeeze past one another. Mainstream science remains completely silent on how these 100-ton monoliths were maneuvered around sharp corners and dropped into narrow niches with 40 centimeters of clearance. The cramped spaces leave no room for large work crews or wooden levers, and ancient Egyptians officially lacked any form of hydraulic machinery. Deep within the gallery, a lone, unfinished container sits stranded right in the middle of the corridor. It looks as though the craftsmen suddenly dropped the massive block halfway through their work and walked away forever. Furthermore, roughly gouged hieroglyphs on the exterior clash violently with the pristine, mirror-polished surfaces found on the inside. It appears as if secondary cultures scratched their own crude markings onto these relics thousands of years after their creation. Leaving the dark subterranean labyrinths of Egypt behind, the mystery deepens as we move to the floor of the Mediterranean Sea. In 1901, a crew of Greek sponge divers sought shelter from a violent storm near the remote island of Antikythera. The captain sent a diver down 60 meters to investigate, only for the man to resurface in terror, shouting about a field of corpses. Rather than finding a graveyard, the captain discovered the wreckage of an ancient Roman vessel that had gone down around 75 BC. Those terrifying corpses turn out to be ancient marble statues preserved in the seabed for 2 millennia. Amidst the scattered sculptures and old coins lay a seemingly unremarkable, corroded lump of bronze. For 2 long years, it gathered dust in an Athens museum repository until a politician named Spiridon Stays spotted a fracture in the metal. Peering closer, he glimpsed a tiny, flawlessly crafted gear embedded deep inside a 2,000-year-old relic. While media headlines screamed of a historic breakthrough, cynical critics dismissed the entire find as a modern hoax. Decades later, advanced X-ray tomography settled the debate by exposing a complex network of 37 bronze gears hidden inside. The largest will spanned 13 centimeters across and boasted exactly 223 precisely cut teeth. This laptop-sized apparatus tracked the movements of the sun, the moon, and 5 distinct planets with staggering accuracy. It could forecast solar and lunar eclipses, count down to the Olympic Games, and accurately display shifting lunar phases. Western scientists would not replicate such mathematical precision for another 1,500 years. Remarkably, 2 offset gears allowed the device to mirror the moon's variable speed along its elliptical path. This was effectively a mechanical differential, operating just like the system that lets modern car wheels spin at different rates during turns. Every single triangular tooth was cut so uniformly that it seemed impossible to achieve with a standard hand tool. Recent scans even deciphered text on the rear casing, revealing what amounts to a comprehensive user manual for the machine. Whoever engineered this instrument possessed an understanding of the cosmos that the rest of humanity would take another 2 millennia to reach. During the 1st century BC, the Roman orator Cicero detailed a comparable apparatus built by Archimedes in Syracuse. This proves the Antikythera Mechanism wasn't an isolated anomaly, but rather part of a broader engineering tradition that left behind only a single surviving artifact. While the Greeks managed to encase the heavens inside a bronze container, Indian blacksmiths from the same era were busy mastering the properties of iron. Standing in the courtyard of Delhi's Qutb Minar complex is a massive pillar measuring over 7 meters high and weighing upwards of 6 tons. A Sanskrit inscription attributes this monument to King Chandragupta II of the Gupta Empire, dating back to the 4th century AD. For 16 centuries, this pillar has remained exposed to the elements, enduring torrential monsoon rains and blistering heat with virtually no rust forming on it. Standard iron would completely corrode within a few years in Delhi's climate, which is why structures like the Eiffel Tower require repainting every 7 years. Even a direct hit from a cannonball during the 18th century failed to shatter the structure, leaving only a visible dent 4 meters above the ground. Scientists tried to unravel this mystery since 1912, when British chemists managed to secure the very first samples for testing. The breakthrough came 91 years later when Professor Balasubramaniam from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, published his comprehensive findings. His team utilized X-ray diffraction, electrochemical testing, and advanced microscopy to analyze exactly what was happening on the metal surface. They discovered the pillar's iron contains roughly 1% phosphorus, alongside a near-total absence of sulfur and magnesium. This specific chemical makeup triggers the formation of a crystalline iron phosphate layer just a fraction of a millimeter thick. Acting as an invisible shield, this unique protective coating actively heals its own cracks whenever the metal goes through wet and dry weather cycles. Without a single drop of paint, this ancient structure stands under the open sky, winning a battle that defeats our modern industry. Drop a comment below to let me know which country you're watching from, as I love seeing our global audience. While early Indian craftsmen successfully mastered the properties of iron, Roman artisans around the 4th century managed to conquer light itself. Secured behind reinforced glass in the British Museum sits the Lycurgus Cup, antiquity's sole surviving masterpiece of dichroic glass. When illuminated from the front, the vessel takes on a jade-green hue, but shines a brilliant ruby red when light passes through it. Its intricate surface depicts the tragic myth of King Lycurgus ensnared by grapevines, while the god Dionysus closely observes his doom. Artisans achieve this by casting a thick block of glass and meticulously carving it down into a delicate, open-work lattice. The optical magic wasn't in the carving itself, but deep within the glass structure, a mystery finally solved in the 1990s. Scientists examining similar Roman glass shards under electron microscopes discovered alloyed particles of gold and silver measuring just 50 nanometers. These tiny metal inclusions, 1,000 times smaller than a grain of salt, cause electrons to vibrate and alter light wavelengths. This phenomenon, known as plasmon resonance, produces a green reflection from silver and a red transmission from the gold particles. Roman masters blended these metals at a precise 7:3 ratio, a feat Cambridge researchers couldn't replicate until 2014. Today, this festive Roman technology is inspiring ultra-sensitive water pollution sensors that could save millions of lives 17 centuries later. Meanwhile, their eastern neighbors might have controlled electricity, evidenced by a 14-centimeter clay jar unearthed near Ctesiphon in 1936. Inside, an isolated iron rod hung within a copper cylinder, a setup Iraq's museum director instantly recognized as a galvanic cell. This design relied on two metals with distinct electrochemical potentials, leaving a gap meant for a liquid electrolyte. Telltale signs of corrosion inside the vessel strongly indicated the historical presence of an acidic agent, like wine juice or vinegar. Eager to test this, an American researcher named Willard Gray constructed a precise duplicate and filled it with grape juice. To everyone's amazement, the reconstructed ancient artifact successfully generated a measurable flow of electricity. While a lone jar produced roughly 1 volt, chaining multiple units together could easily generate enough power for electroplating gold onto jewelry. Furthermore, archaeologists uncovered comparable vessels in nearby Seleucia, discovered right alongside peculiar needles made of iron and bronze. Medical use of electricity wasn't completely alien either. First-century Roman Dr. Scribonius Largus documented treating gout using electric rays on patients' feet. Clearly, therapeutic applications of electrical currents were recognized by ancient civilizations long before modern science formally defined the phenomenon. This means the remarkable Baghdad battery beads Alessandro Volta's official invention by no less than 1,600 years. Tragically, during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the priceless artifact vanished from the museum, and its current whereabouts remain a mystery. Humanity lost arguably the earliest electrical device in existence, robbing modern researchers of the chance to perform advanced laboratory testing. Now, our journey takes us back to Egypt to examine a table-sized object that perfectly resembles a component from a modern factory floor. Also in 1936, archaeologist Walter Emery uncovered the resting place of a high-ranking official named Sabu within the Saqqara necropolis. Beside the ancient remains rested a shattered stone wheel spanning 61 centimeters, meticulously fashioned from a fragile material called metasiltstone. This delicate rock fractures under minimal pressure, yet its 3 curved blades meet at a central hub, perfectly mimicking an industrial pump impeller. Dating back roughly 5 millennia, this burial site belongs to the First Dynasty, an era when craftsmanship relied solely on stone and soft copper. To this day, experts remain baffled by how ancient artisans managed to sculpt such delicate blade from a brittle stone without causing a single chip. Seeking answers, a curious researcher produced a 3D printed replica and mounted it onto a shaft inside a custom casing. Once rotated, the reproduction began forcefully pushing water forward, performing precisely like a traditional centrifugal impeller. Even operating without an enclosure, the spinning disc generated a stable aquatic vortex so powerful that any claim of accidental design is entirely ruled out. Aerospace engineers from Airbus subsequently fabricated their own models and verified the aerodynamic properties, though they concluded it could not function as a standard propeller. Egyptologist Cyril Aldred observed that the artifact's unique contours strongly imply it was a duplicate of a much older metallic prototype. Should the Sabu Disc truly represent a mock-up of a long-lost machine? We're looking at evidence of engineering logic that vanished before written history even began. Someone residing along the Nile 5,000 years ago understood how to move liquids using centrifugal force, only for that expertise to dissolve into the desert's sands alongside its creator. Unlike other anomalies, our final discovery is not hidden underground, but stands openly before crowds of travelers near Xi'an, China. While digging a well back in 1974, local farmers accidentally struck fragments of sculpted clay torso. This chance event initiated the unearthing of the Terracotta army, a massive gathering of over 8,000 life-sized warriors shaped from fired clay. Every individual figure matches human proportions, and remarkably, not a single face is identical, despite artisans utilizing a mere 8 basic molds for the heads. These silent sentinels guarded the final resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, whose monumental tomb required the labor of 700,000 workers. Less than 1% of the vast necropolis has been excavated so far, yet the true marvel was not the clay figures themselves, but the weaponry they carried. The recovered blades gleamed as if they were forged just yesterday, their edges retaining a lethal sharpness despite centuries underground. For decades, researchers believed a protective chrome plating was responsible, a sophisticated technique only patented in Europe during the 20th century. However, a groundbreaking collaborative study conducted in 2019 shattered this long-standing scientific theory entirely. The detected chromium was merely contamination from the protective varnish applied to the wooden handles, playing no role in preserving the metal. Instead, the true secret lay in the specific high-tin bronze alloy combined with the unique properties of the regional soil. The local alkaline loess, characterized by fine particles and low organic content, provided the ultimate environment to prevent weapon corrosion. Modern bronze replicas buried in this Chinese earth withstood months of harsh testing and scathe, whereas identical samples in British soil quickly rusted. Over 2 millennia ago, Qin craftsmen engineered a perfect preservation environment, creating work that outlasted every empire that followed. 40,000 blades waited silently in the dark like an uncancelled military command. Which of these revelations amazed you most? Share your thoughts below. Our journey has taken us through Egyptian catacombs, down into the Mediterranean, past Delhi's rustless pillar, and inside Roman cups shifting with nanoparticles. We examined an ancient battery dating back 2,000 years and marveled at a sophisticated stone turbine carved 5 millennia ago. Every single one of these artifacts is thoroughly documented and safely housed in museums, ready for anyone to book a flight and see firsthand. None of these wonders require extraterrestrial explanations, yet they force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our ancestors possessed advanced knowledge we are only now recovering. What we proudly celebrate today as modern scientific breakthroughs might have simply been standard daily craftsmanship to them. Perhaps human progress is not a straight upward line, but a repeating spiral where the true mystery isn't how they built the past, but why we forgot it.